In a world that's searching for truth and light, we gather stories to share inside. Authors with wisdom, their voices ring. In the exchange show, we bring hope and guidance. Welcome to the exchange, where stories unfold. Faith and inspiration are treasures to behold. The words and wisdom our spirits grow. Join us on this journey on the exchange show.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Exchange Show, where stories are unfolding. So we thank you for joining us today. I am your host, Berthanna Oxendine, and I thank God we are all here together today on the Exchange Show. Listen, like and share, and then invite someone to watch with you right here on Facebook or YouTube. All the links you would need to become a part of our networking community, they will be listed in the description of the video. So here at the Exchange Show, I had the awesome privilege of talking to some of God's gifted authors and hearing their stories. They have a message of hope, faith, love, and guidance in different situations. So please support the authors by purchasing a copy of their book and then sharing the show information on your social media platforms. And I do believe if each one helps one, then we all will be successful. So to tell you some things about myself, as I said, I am Berthanna Oxendine. I am a certified life coach. I am an encourager, a pastor, a mother, and an international best-selling author. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring our guest on today that we have. That is Miss Michelle Ule. And I'm going to call her Miss Michelle. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. And you?
I'm doing good. So glad to have you with us today, for you being our guest. So we're going to start off and we're going to let Miss Michelle tell us some things about herself.
Well, I am a writer, I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, and I live in Northern California. I've written 11 books. One was on the New York Times bestsellers list. I love history. I love the Lord. I've lived all over the United States. I've gone to a lot of churches because my husband's career took us moving. And I'm actually looking forward to going on a mission trip to Africa, South Africa, here in a couple of months with Serve Nations. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
That's going to be great. That's going to be great. And in her book, the title of her book is Miss Oswald Chambers. And reading what I've read in her book, this is an awesome lady. Awesome. I will call her a missionary. She was just awesome to walk with her and her husband together. And one of the questions that I have for Michelle today, have you always wanted to be an author?
Absolutely, of course. I started like when I was 7 years old. I tried to write my first book. I got 3 pages in and thought, it's too hard to write a book. And I gave it up for quite a while, but I've always written. I was a reporter in college, and I've always written letters, and I for many years was an amateur genealogist, and I wrote a massive family history that's in the Library of Congress. If you're related to me, you'd like to read it. Otherwise, don't bother. But it had 900 endnote citations. And for writers, you think to yourself, why am I spending all this time on this? But the fact I could put together such a detailed family biography enabled the publisher to see I could probably write a real biography as well. So, yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, that's something you was birthed with. God sent you here with that talent, with that gift. And one of your purposes is to write the story that others can hear it. And it's the way, I like the way that you write it, the way that you tell the story. Everyone don't have that gift to be able to do it like that. So I thank God for that gift that you have in you for writing this book. So let's get into the book.
Okay.
Why did you choose her? Why did you choose her?
Well, my family and I went through a crisis in 1999 My husband lost his job. We had 4 kids. The oldest was a freshman in college. And I thought, all right, I really got to buckle down on the prayer support for this next year. And I thought maybe I'll add a devotional, because I'd never used a devotional before. I'd always just read, a psalm, an Old Testament, New Testament. So one of the kids in my husband's 3rd grade Sunday school class gave him a copy of My Utmost for His Highest for Christmas. And I thought, well, this sounds like the right choice. So here it is, the actual book.
Okay.
And I opened it up on January 1 because I'm methodical, and it said, it just says, we need to be able to come to the Lord. If a crisis has hit you, surrender your will to Him.
Wow.
Absolutely and irrevocably. And man, a crisis had hit our family, so off we went. And,
isn't it something how God put that right there?
Totally. And I've been reading this now for 25, 26 years. And I am shocked at how often He hits me with it. I mean, like, I've read this 100 times, and well, not 100, 26 times. But one day in particular, August 28th, I'd come through a horrible situation where someone I'd prayed for a very long time, I discovered she'd made some horrible, awful choices. So upset. Lord, what's the point of praying if this is what happens?
Yeah.
Well, the August 28th, this is why I know it's August 28th. The title is, What's the Good of Prayer? It's like, wait, it's like He picked this out for me. And what I really love about this is in the last paragraph, it's not so true that prayer changes things, circumstances and things, as that prayer changes me.
Yes.
I change things. And that just turned the way I prayed for people. Yeah. How do I pray for them? What do I pray for them? What do you want me to say? What do you want me not to say? And it's just continued on. So in 2013, I was working for my literary agent, and I went to work. And at 3:00, we were going to discuss, what will you write next, Michelle? But a phone call came before that from an editor in New York looking for a inspirational historical romance that began the day World War I began and ended the day World War I ended. And we're like, man, what's inspirational about any of that? So she and I were tossing ideas around, and I had just read David McCaslin's Abandoned to God, which is a story. It's a biography of Oswald Chambers, a very fine book. And I said, well, wait a minute. What about the Oswald Chambers story? And she's like, what story is that? And I said, well, he led a revival among the Anzac troops. There is an inspirational story out of World War I, maybe the only one. And she said, can you write it? And I said, sure, because that's the only answer you're asking that question. And she said, all right, I want the proposal on Friday. This was Monday. I had 5 days to write the proposal. And I prayed about it quite a bit and did a lot of research in that time. And then I woke up Thursday morning, no story. And I said, all right, Lord, I'm willing to write the book, but you're going to have to give me a storyline. And right then, chapter right in my brain, got up and typed it, went for a walk with my prayer partner. We prayed. I came home. I wrote a second chapter. I put together a proposal and I handed it to my boss today, just as I walked into the office on Friday morning. And that book became this one. Sorry about this. I'm not planning this.
Okay. A
Poppy in Remembrance. Oswald and Biddy Chambers are characters in this book, real people. It's a World War I coming of age story. Well, you write a novel and characters suddenly start doing things that you don't expect them to do. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm God. I can change. You can't change my story. And they said, oh, really? And it was Biddy who was changing my storyline. She was becoming a stronger character. And I thought, man. So I happened to have lunch with a member of the Oswald Chambers Publication Association not long after. He said, you guys thought about writing a biography on Biddy? And he said, no, but why don't you do it? And I did.
Wow. Excuse me. I thought I had cut that off. And you know how you think you cut something off and it's not off. Let me cut that off.
Sure.
Okay. That is so good. I mean, but this is when I started reading the story, how it all started off with, her husband, but then the love that God allowed them to meet, and get together. I just thought it was awesome. So what I want to do, you had sent me some things in reading the book and her childhood. Let's share a little bit what you think the book is saying from her childhood that we want the audience to get.
She started out as the daughter of basically a CPA, but he died when she was 15, which was at the same time her health collapsed. She was born south of London during Queen Victoria's age. Queen Victoria was on the throne when she was born. And that was the time where the black fog would come in, and it was deadly. A lot of people died of bronchitis, particularly the year she was born. And the particulates from smoke get into the lungs, and people, especially then, died. She came down with bronchitis and had to drop out of school, but she was a determined student. She wanted to help the family. Her father had died. So she took up the newest office skill of the time, which was stenography. She took a correspondence course in stenography, was always very determined to do her best, her utmost for God's highest work. And she eventually worked up to taking down, while people wrote, 250 words per minute, or twice as fast as I am talking to you right now. I like to say, if Biddy were here writing what I'm saying, she would already be on the next sentence. So, just very good. She went to work, did very well with her job, but she had a larger site. And in 1908, she decided to go to America with a friend. Her friend was already in America, to get a job in New York City. So she got on a boat where she met and became close friends with Oswald Chambers. He too was traveling over to New York. He was doing a summer trip to New York, to the East Coast of the United States. They fell in love on that 10-day trip. And he saw right away the potential. I can speak, you can write down, and think of the glorious things we'll do for God. They got married in 2010. And he had already visited the Oriental Missionary Society in Japan, and seen their training college. That's my other book, actually, my other biography. And when he came back, he set up a Bible training college in London. Biddy was the lady superintendent. She ran the school with all those secretarial skills, and he was the principal. He taught the classes and he mentored the students, and off they went together in a really wonderful life together.
Yeah, the way they met, I just feel like in that God was in it. The same way when you picked up the devotional and you was speaking, he heard what you said and he answered the question that you had asked by letting you read that in the book. And the same way he let, Biddy and her husband, the man, meet that she was going to end up marrying. I just thought that was just, we think we're running things, but God is the one that's running everything. We just need to realize that.
Absolutely. He always has his better idea, right?
This is always better than ours, because he sees down the road, and he knows all that we don't know.
It's absolutely
that's why it's so important to trust him.
Yeah, it is. So they got married, they ran the school, and he was also teaching correspondence classes. He graded 3,000 student papers over the course of the 4 years he did that. These people were working really hard, all for the glory of God. And gosh, it was such a humiliating thing for me. Oh, wait a minute. I should be working a little harder here. I don't know.
But, don't you think it's something that, God had prepared her to have all those secretarial skills and knowing how to do shorthand? And I took shorthand in high school, but to be able to do it today, I can do a couple of lines and that's about it.
Yeah, right.
But like you said, she was really very skilled in doing that. And for being the type of man that he was, she needed that to have those skills.
The two of them were an excellent match. They really, really were. And to God's glory, eh?
Yeah. I thought that was just awesome. But it just lets you know even the more how wonderful God is.
Yeah, and her name, Biddy, I should probably explain that.
Yes, do that, please.
Oswald Chambers gave her a nickname. He liked to give people nicknames. And he started with beloved disciple. This is on board the ship, right? Oh, beloved disciple, should we have a cup of tea? Well, that got to be a little much. So he shortened it to BD, which then just morphed into Biddy. And that's who she was for the rest of her life, Biddy. But it means beloved disciple, which is her character. And that, I think, is really the telling point of that name.
I think that's just awesome. When I first started reading, I said, where is this going to? Because at first it didn't seem like they were going to be together. Yeah. But later on.
Yeah.
As they kept traveling together, different places, and all the places that they traveled. And she wasn't the only woman involved, that traveled,
Yeah.
but she was the one that God had for him.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I thought that was awesome how God brought them together. And then I said, their love story ended up being this brought together a love sharing. They began to share the love story of Jesus together.
Amen. Yes. And that Bible training college was aimed at preparing missionaries to go out into the mission field. That was the purpose. He wanted them to go out and be prepared to share the gospel and then share it with the people wherever he was, that they would take over the understanding of who Jesus was and share with their own people. This is what was going on in Japan. They were training the Japanese to share the gospel, not coming in as Westerners to help, other than to prepare them with the Bible itself. And Oswald's plan had been, after World War I ended, he and Biddy were going to just do that. They were going to travel and meet missionaries around the world as a sort of continuing education program. OC was not able to do that, but Biddy later put together a monthly newsletter, really, multi-pages long, that went to missionaries all over the world to encourage their faith and to give them more skills in sharing the gospel. So wonderful. Yeah.
Well, what we're going to do here, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be right back and talk about their submission to God that they have.
Okay.
We'll take a quick break.
Today's sponsor is Global Impact University Consulting, LLC. Are you ready to receive your theology degree? Contact them today.
Well, welcome back. This is the Exchange Show you're watching today with our special guest, Miss Michelle Ule. And we're talking about her book, Miss Oswald Chambers. And we just got finished talking about why she got the nickname called Biddy, which meant beloved disciple. So now we're going to kind of get into the submission to God. This book shares so many different things, the childhood of Miss Biddy and about their marriage and coming together and their submission to God. Let's talk about that.
Oh, it was absolute. Oswald had never expected to get married because he wouldn't have any money.
Yeah.
And Biddy, though, was a fine woman, able to manage the money and the resources and, again, run the school because of those secretarial skills.
Yes.
But as World War I began in 1914, Oswald continued teaching at the school, but started feeling like maybe God was tugging him elsewhere. It was a terrible war, of course, and you had soldiers returning without limbs, and it was just really difficult. So in 1915, after that school year, 2 years there, after the war began, he applied and became a chaplain with the YMCA, Young Men's Christian Association. It's the equivalent these days to the USO, United Servicemen's Organization.
Okay.
So they closed the school. He and Biddy had certainly prayed and talked about it because he was right on the cusp. He was old enough he didn't have to go to war, but he really felt this calling to minister. So he set off for Egypt, got to the YMCA headquarters in Cairo. He was sent to Cairo, Egypt, and he asked if he could bring his wife, his child, and a friend to help. And there were no wives of YMCA chaplains in Egypt during those years. There were 17 of them. No one had a wife other than the leader. And he said, well, yeah, I guess if you pay for it yourself. So some of his supporters in London gathered the money together. And in December of 1915, Biddy and their 2-year-old Kathleen got on board the ship with a friend, and they sailed from England down the coast of France through the Straits of Gibraltar, past burning wrecks that had been hit by U-boats and sunk, and landed at Port Said. I mean, it was horrifying to me. My husband was a submarine officer, and I was not going to take 2-year-old to a foreign country in the middle of a war, much less in her case. There was no penicillin. There were no shots. You had to worry about water.
Not that time. No.
But off she went because she believed so firmly in the mission that God had called them.
Yes.
And she she had a 2-year-old, mind you, a 2-year-old. That little girl was raised for the next 3 years in a World War I camp in the desert, surrounded by horses, because they were at Zaytun, which was the second Anzac light horse campaign. I mean, we even had flies on top of everything else. And yet that little girl, Biddy, every picture of Kathleen, she's wearing this pristine white dress with a bow in her hair. I never did that with my kid. And I had a washing machine.
But she did.
And there they were. But Kathleen, was a total draw, because all those
Yeah.
Anzac soldiers hadn't seen their families in 8, 9,
Yes.
2 years. They loved that little girl. And so Biddy and eventually a couple other people from the Bible Training College began offering tea, hospitality. They were hospitable to these men who were living in tents, and it's 120 degrees. I mean, it was a crazy situation. And yet there they were, ministering to the lives of those people. They realized their lives teetered on eternity. Those guys were going to France, or they were going up the line to Jerusalem, and it wasn't looking pretty. So OC faithfully preached the gospel. Revival broke out among those troops, and some believe that revival made all the difference in the conclusion of World War I in the Middle East. I mean, phenomenal story. And through it all, she sat in the back and took notes, right?
And secretarial skills never left her. She always kept doing it. And then and you were also in the book, she wasn't a total saint. God can use anybody that's willing to be used. You want to talk something about that? Well,
I mean, she did take those risks. She held up a game face when her husband died. She had believed, she had a word from God he was going to survive. And he died of appendicitis. It came on very quickly in November of 1917. And but then he did die. And Kathleen, her daughter, later said, the only time I ever saw my mother cry was when she came to tell me my father had died. And she was 4 at the time, and this is such a classic where you train a child that heaven is a wonderful place, and when you die, you go there. So Biddy comes and talks to Kathleen. I'm sorry, your daddy has died. And Kathleen looked at her and said, well, why are you crying? Isn't that good news?
Yeah, she didn't understand.
And you're like, what? And she lived with death all the time because she was surrounded by the army camp, but she was so practical minded. Daddy's living with Jesus. She was talking to some soldiers one day. She said, I wonder what Daddy's doing today with the soldiers up in heaven with Jesus. And the soldiers are like, I don't know. But she was so matter of fact. And that was such a strong part of that ministry that they did to those soldiers. It's wonderful.
It really opened up more of a door to even witness to them about Jesus Christ. Absolutely. And so let me ask you this. If someone wanted to get your book, what would be the best way to get your book?
Well, either through Amazon or through Baker Bookhouse. It was published by Baker Bookhouse. You just have to type in Mrs. Oswald Chambers and it'll turn up really fast. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great. Another thing.
I should say there's an audiobook that I actually read. So if you want to always read the audiobook. Yeah, that's available too, also on Amazon. And you can look at my website. I've written 120 some odd blog posts about the Chambers, Biddy, Oswald, Bible Training College, My Utmost for His Highest. A lot of information is right there for free.
Okay. And then although today we just gave tidbits of all that is in the book, but I would encourage you to purchase the book and actually just read it. It's a great read, great love story, but then also a great faith and determination to do the work of God no matter what happens. Even after her husband passed, it didn't stop there. It didn't drop off there. And she still was willing to do the work. So as time is getting a little bit close for us to get ready to wrap up, because the time goes so fast.
Yeah.
What else would you want your audience to know? Or whoever sees this replay or whoever's watching now, what else would you want them to pull from what God has given you to write about Bibby and her husband?
Biddy herself said that the words that Oswald Chambers spoke, she believed were good for generations to come. And that's why she put all those books together, 30 finally, using just those notes. My Utmost for His Highest, which is still in print, almost 100 years later, is the cream of the ministry. There's so much there that anyone can take in only 250 words a day. How to be a prayer warrior, how to be a servant, how to
Yes.
deal with the difficulties that God brings in our life. Losing her husband at such a young age meant she spent 50 years putting together books with his name, maybe 40, putting together the books with his name on them. But they were used to God's glory in so many ways. Brother Andrew carried him through the Iron Curtain. They were important. They were smuggled into mission soldiers in the POW camps during World War II. Those were words of life because they were birthed out of hardship, yes, but out of worship and the glory of God. And I'm still reading it every day. And it's done my heart really good for a really long time.
Yeah. And it just shows us when you're going to work for Christ, no matter what happens in your life, no matter what situations happen in your life or disappointments come in your life, you still got to press on and carry the work because it's that important. Because I feel like if she would just dropped off, it was like it wasn't important, but the work for Christ, to be able to let him use us to carry the gospel, is so important. So we can't stop. We had to keep on going. And I was reading how different times she would, think she's thinking of him while she was doing the work.
Yeah.
And she could, feel his presence or him speaking as well.
Oh, yeah.
So she knew that he was pleased. And what is your last, what would you be your last things that you want to say to our guests before we go ahead and close? You have any final remarks?
I think it's worth taking a look at the book. You can read it online at utmost.org every single day for free. It has really increased my faith. My husband and I talk about it every day, or maybe not every day anymore, but around the dinner table frequently. Well, as Oswald says, which is, of course, Biddy putting his words in for you. Yeah. There's just a lot of truth there. Some people consider it graduate school Christianity, but I think it's basic Christianity. And it's so worthwhile. It has blessed my life for a long, long time.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's getting to be a wrap for today. I thank you again, Miss Michelle Ule, for being willing to share your book with us and to be a guest on our show. And I would like to ask our audience, grab a copy of that book and read it for yourself. Read it for yourself and see what all it does for you, how it will encourage your faith, how it will encourage you the importance of, if you're doing the work for God, to continue doing that no matter what circumstances or no matter what seems hard. He will give you the strength to go through if you believe him and trust him. So grab a copy of that book and also invite someone to join us here in the Ken community. So until next time, I am your host, Berthanna Oxendine, and I pray God's abundance upon each one of you until I see you again on another episode of The Exchange Show. God bless you.
Faith and inspiration are treasures to behold. Through words and wisdom, our spirits grow. Join us on this journey on The Exchange Show. Hope in the whispers, guidance in the prose, faith in the stories where the heart knows. A tapestry of voices woven with care. In every episode it is a blessing to share. Welcome to The Exchange, where stories unfold. Faith and inspiration.